So happy to be on here. Oh my God, the drama. I thought they were. My Instagram was not doing a live post. I was complaining about it in my stories, but we're all good. I'm happy to be back. This is my happy place. So today starts the beginning of season 2 with our page here, our interviews. I've been sending out so many, interview requests to so many great people, and I'm hoping that there will be a lot of amazing. I mean, everybody's been amazing so far, but just to keep that ball rolling. I am here in a new location, so I just want to let everybody know, like if the Wi-Fi cuts out or something like that, just kind of bear with me. Let me reduce the light on this thing. Okay. If the internet cuts out or anything, just bear with me. We'll reconnect in a jiffy. My guest is on the other side of the planet. I don't know if I've mentioned this, but I'm back in America and she's in Turkey. So it's the middle of the night for her. God bless you. So I just wanted to introduce her a little bit before I get her on. She's right there. Her name is Suhein, and she's a mother, entrepreneur, bibliophile. She has such an amazing story, and I am so excited to get her on here. I'm going to go ahead and add Suhein. Let me get you on here. Plus, forgot how to do this. There you are. Invite. Suhein is coming on. Yay!
Bonjour.
Yay! I'm so excited. I'm so happy it worked. Oh, we're a whole hour late. I am so sorry. We should be done with our interview by now, but
I'm a late bird. Don't worry about it. It all works out.
I get to see that hair, that makeup. I get to see that.
You don't want to waste all this.
Yeah. All right. I'm so excited.
Yes.
All right.
Me too, Noor. Very good. Congratulations on what you've done. You've done an amazing job, and thank you. I know it's a lot of work and giving us a voice. And so, mashallah alayki, I'm very, very proud of you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. It's been so fun. So just reconnecting with people, really appreciating and enjoying the idea behind community.
You were born for this. You were born for this. Like, mashallah, like it shows, your passion shows, and we need it. We need it. So thank you.
Thank you. Oh. So no, we're just like, thank you. All right. So I just want to hop right into it. I've been thinking about this all day. I want to hear you talk. Introduce yourself, place us in the world of Suhein. Let us know where you're at, how you got there maybe, and we'll just take it from there.
Okay, so forgive me, but I'm going to talk like 95 miles an hour because I know the list that you gave me was like so intense. So it's like the pressure is on. Okay, so my real name, Suhein Bshahaluk, is Abjadur, and my father is Abjadur, and he came from Bshahalukwai. So there's a village in Caucasia named after us. And we discovered this when we went back to Caucasia in 1989. So just when Glasnost and Perestroika was opening up for Caucasia, we were one of the first tour groups back there.
Wow.
And it was an exhilarating experience. It was devastating. It was hard at the same time because, like we always have this romanticized vision of like going back to the homeland and whatnot. And at that particular time, it was right after the communist era of, 60, 65 years. Right. And it was so hard to see that. And I have to congratulate you and commend you on the connection you made with the indigenous population, because every time you post something with that, I reconnect to exactly that observation that I had when I went back to Caucasia back in 1989, and that was that we were kindred with the indigenous population of North America and South America, actually. and then also the Palestinians.
Right.
So for me, there was a triad of like, we were both displaced from our own homeland, and those of us that stayed were practically raped of our culture.
Right.
Or contaminated with everything that was negative to disperse and to basically create a constructive eviction.
Wow.
So even though we were allowed to be in our homeland, we were not
Right.
allowed to have our language or have our culture and have the freedom of religion and all those things. And so it was so kin to the other two cultures that at the time I actually wrote an article about that, but you know, it wasn't very published very widely because obviously the audience wasn't there. So every time you post something about the indigenous population, my heart just, no, good job. No, good job. Yeah. So that was in 1989. Originally, we were from Caucasia, obviously, through Turkey. My grandfather studied medicine in Turkey, and then he ended up in the Golan Heights in Syria. You know, then the 1967 war obviously was very devastating as well because we were already one generation out. Right. From Caucasia, and then we barely had settled into the lowlands, the highlands basically of Syria, and little did we know that we were the buffer zone of between Syria and Israel. And so boom, bada boom, bada bing. And so that was, you know, secondary level of refugee status, 1967. Then 1971, the revolution in Syria, my father was at risk because he had worked in the government in the Office of Information, basically. And if there was going to be a turnover, he was going to be the first ones that was going to be, you know, let's just say disconnected. Right. So we escaped on a midnight train back through Turkey and then ended up in Germany for about 1.5 to 2 years. And then that's when we migrated to New Jersey. We were there for 10 years. We were in Clifton, New Jersey. So we were a little bit far from the Circassians. We were like insanely workaholics, and it was a very tough thing. I have a YouTube channel under my name, Suhein, and if anybody wants to see that interview with my mother, it really reveals the harsh reality of what being an immigrant in the 70s in America was really like. So we had a different experience than the rest of the Circassians that were in Passaic County and like Patterson and Heldon and whatnot, where they were all kind of protected with each other. We were on the outside in somewhat of a more white area. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And with that, we actually ended up with kind of this weird reverse racism that even though it was a white neighborhood and we were white, it was not good. We were just the foreigners. So it did not matter skin tone or anything like that. Wow. And in fact, it's kind of weird because, you know, when we grew up, there was nothing available about Circassian history, Circassian legacy. We were virtually unknown. Other than Encyclopedia Britannica, I remember looking us up and we were referred to as Caucasians. Right. So it was rarely referred to as the Circassians or the Adiga. Right. And so back then we were referred to as Caucasians in that encyclopedia. Mm. So I assumed, because we were from the geographic location of the Caucasus, we were Caucasian. Right. So learning English, watching television in the 1970s, all of the police TV programs were all saying, you know, apprehended, you know, Caucasian male, you know, apprehended African-American, you know, male, you know, and then I was just like, wait, like we are up there with all of the criminals of the world because all of the TV programs said Caucasian. Oh my God. So I had this huge cloud over my head of fearful of saying we are Caucasian because of that, you know. So that's the story that I wanted to start out with, was my identity crisis began with the American television programs designating Caucasian as that sect or that group of, you know, 10-4, Roger, 10-4,
Yeah.
you know, and then like, you know, we
Caucasian on
apprehended
the
the
loose.
Caucasian. And I was like, oh no, they got another one of us.
Oh no. Whose ammo is that?
Which ammo did they get?
Cousin. Oh my god. What a mess.
So that was my identity crisis from the get-go. And so whenever we were able to disassociate from Caucasian,
Right.
and I was able to like reference it as Circassian, then I was okay with that. Or Cherkas or Ediga, but not Caucasian.
Right.
Because in my mind, we were criminals. Like, you know, we filled up the jail system, the prison system. So, oh, what a horrible way to start your identity foundation.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So now with your movement, and I think like you're in the forefront of this movement of awareness for Caucasians, I'm hesitant because I still have that baggage.
Right.
You know, of like Caucasians still being on those TV programs. Anyway, so that was, you know, a harsh reality. So for me, you know, being able to go back to Circassia.
That's a big deal. That's a very
It
big
was.
deal.
It was. And for us, it was very romanticized of being able to go back to the homeland and whatever. And so sadly, though, my perceptions back then were that because they didn't have, and you know me, like I'm very, very moderate with my Islam.
Right.
It's hard for me to say this, but it was hard for me to see our people stripped away from their religion. And I made an observation back then, and it was like, I don't know if you've read Ayn Rand and, you know, like some of that communist era literature,
right,
of the cold era, the gray of Russia back then.
Right, yeah.
I saw that. So we as Circassians, you know, forgive me for saying this, but like even Encyclopedia Britannica said we were known for like physical beauty and the strength of our people and whatnot. And it's you know, it's an association kind of a, you know, thing. And when I saw our people, but when I saw our people without any level of religion, only
right,
the elder women had that nur al-iman.
Right, right.
So when I saw, it was like this blankness. So that spirit of hope and beauty of, you know, there's more to life than just this mere existence of grayness and communism and,
Right.
you know, all of that. So I saw what that did to our people, to not have Islam, to not have Iman, to not have that hope. Because, you know, at the end of the day, or at the end of our lives, you know, Islam does give us hope, you know, and without that, they had the only mere existence of a miserable life in cold communist era.
Right, yeah.
So I was so shocked that I was seeing like these physically beautiful girls, and yet there was something missing.
Right.
So hard to explain. And like now I see that that's coming back, and that shine and that beauty and that inner, you know, Islam is there.
Right.
So
Right.
that has been beautiful. And so what a great human experiment as well.
Right. Yeah, amazing. You know, and I heard, just to kind of go off of that era, I heard that now that there has been some time between, you know, the fall of that whole time and you know, that Caucasians and Circassians in general, they are more able to express themselves a little bit. They're not under such a lockdown, you know, as far as like what they can say and
Cultural
their identity.
lockdown. That's a good
Yeah.
word. Cultural lockdown.
Yeah.
We had
Yeah.
our cultural lockdown for, you know, 130 years.
Right. And, you know, for me, I always pull back to, and this is why I love their culture and their story, is the indigenous people of America, and Canada, because they experienced it, but they couldn't leave. So yes, they were moved to reservations. Yes, they were, stripped of, like, they couldn't have their hair long, they couldn't speak their language in public, they couldn't do their dances, but they still managed to maintain it, as you can see. And they're having just the most beautiful revival,
Yeah,
cultural
yeah.
revival on the internet. And it's
I
so
did not know
inspiring.
until I started watching your program. You know,
Yeah.
like, you know, your highlights, your stories are incredible. So I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so that's beautiful. Let's get to your entrepreneurship. You mentioned you have a YouTube, you have a TikTok, you're on Instagram, you're sharing all this amazing content about your product, Ilaj. So we actually had a fantastic conversation a few weeks ago about the history of a very important ingredient, which I want you to just bust out here, and then the slugging, kind of how,
Right.
you know, Marco Polo. I mean, there's a lot going on with this. There's a lot, and it's worth talking about. It's all awesome. So
Okay, so let me set the background of the company and the product first, and then, you know, what just recently happened.
Right.
So my grandfather, as he migrated out of Caucasian, studied medicine in Turkey, he was considered, he ranked as one of the top surgeons in Turkey. He was ranked number 17 at the time. And so he became a doctor for a very famous, I think one of the last sultans of Turkey. Like, this was like right at the very end of the Ottoman Empire. And he served in the army, and he married a very wealthy Turkish woman.
Wow.
And this was in Adana, near the rivers of Seyhan, Reyhan, which is kind of ironic. Like, my name's Suhein, Seyhan, like there's a little bit there. My daughter's name is Rehan, and so like we've connected somehow the dots. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's one thing, and it was always a fascination for me that, you know, he was in Adana, and then recently I moved back to Turkey, and I started working with a group that was building refugee schools for Syrians, and it was in Adana, and while I was there. Wow. I was digging up information about my grandfather and trying. So I went and I almost got arrested. So this is the story about how I almost got arrested. I'll tell you the entrepreneurship journey, but this is more exciting right now.
All right.
For people that know me, they know that, like, I walk the edge. There's never a dull moment.
That's so funny.
So I am desperately looking for information about my grandfather and like this beautiful love story, because he married this Turkish woman and they never had children. And what ended up happening is that he went off to war and served in the army, and that's where he came up with the formulation for Ilaj. Right. So it was a product that was to serve the soldiers in the field, so that, you know, if there was any burns or, you know, wounds or anything like that, it was like an antibacterial, viral as well. And then it was also like a wound healing cream in the field, you know, because when you get injured and whatever, like, that is one of the things. Right. So that's where the formulation began. It was right there in Turkey, right there, like the starting point, right? So anyway, but there's a beautiful love story behind this whole thing, okay? And that's what I wanted to unravel. And like, the writer in me was like, oh, I got to get this romantic, beautiful story of who was this woman. And my grandmother talked about this Turkish woman, about how beautiful she was. And she was like this princess, and she was like this aristocrat and whatnot. And, you know, my grandfather said, you know, like, I'd like to go move to Syria. And she was just like, I'm not leaving Turkey. She didn't want to leave Turkey. But anyway, he went off to the army. She died.
Oh, because I'm like, at what point did he cut it off with her? But
no, they loved each other. They loved each other so much. And she died, and she was an only child to this very wealthy, so-called, I don't know, like, I can't exactly say who he is. We have the name, and there was an article written about it. Anyway, so he inherited a lot of land from her.
Wow.
And she specifically put a permanent sign, landmark on the land, that this land belongs to Dr. Muhammad Ali Shahalok.
So I'm already starting to see where you almost got arrested. I'm starting to make those connections now. Okay.
So I'm dying to find the title, the deeds, the land, you know, this whole thing and whatever. And so like I am lost in the zone of like this excitement. And I went with a good friend of mine, Yusuf, and we were there, and thank God, like he is very strong in his Turkish, and he is very strong in like military background and whatnot.
Right.
I walk in and like, you know, I'm kind of a YouTuber, you know, so I get kind of carried away with the whole media thing. And so like, I'm literally walking around in Adana and I'm like, okay, so here I feel his spirit. Okay, here we are. I'm doing this, you know, and I walk into a government building, the Nüfus building.
Oh, okay.
And I am filming myself walking in. And I'm so like la 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 la, you know, like I'm filming and this and that, so Yusuf gets me connected to the top head honcho in the Nüfus building, right? Mm-hmm. So we go to the supervisor basically, and I'm filming and everything, and then like I go inside and I'm like discreetly doing this, right? And so we sit there for a few minutes, and then somebody walks into the office and talks to him. And then he turns to me and he goes, "Were you filming?" And I'm like, and they have it on camera.
So you're a spy now. You're a spy, international spy, and you're in their government building, and you lied about filming them. Oh my God.
If it wasn't for Yusuf, I would have been arrested right now, because like I was this close. Like they interrogated me and they were like, "Give us your phones," and this and he talked them out, and he was in the military as a high-ranking officer, so he got me out of it.
Wow.
I was this close, Noor. I was this close to ending up in a Turkish. I haven't even been here a year, and I'm already on the list.
Did you get him a nice box of Turkish delights to say thank you for making sure you didn't get arrested? Oh my God.
So yeah, so that was that. So anyway, no, we didn't get the information that we needed, but on the other side, so recently I went back and, you know, we went to go build another school, and beautiful story. We were out shopping for books and clothing and stuff like that for the refugees. All the stores, the wholesale district was closed. And my friend Sara Safari, Dr. Sara Safari, was there with me, and it was like 9:30 in the morning on a Sunday. All the stores were closed. And we just happened to walk into this museum, which I wanted to see. I had heard about it. I had read about it from before. And it was the International Museum of History of Medicine.
Medicine, okay.
Okay. And I'm like, oh my God, I want to come here. I want to come here. And it was open on a Sunday. Okay. Yeah. So I walk in and I'm mesmerized. The first organ transplant that ever occurred in the history of medicine happened at that clinic in Adana.
Wow.
So it's a very important museum for history in medicine, right? And it is so quaint and it's so beautiful. And I was walking around, and wallahi, I'm telling you, I had this out-of-body experience where I felt my grandfather's spirit with me every single step of the way. Like I can feel him, I can smell him, like he was there with me, right? Wow. And I got very emotional. And then there was a gentleman there, the curator of the museum. I think his name is Haluk. And he saw me and he was just like, "Why are you getting so emotional?" I cried. Like I literally broke down and I cried. Because like my grandfather was here in this Adana place and I can feel him.
Right.
And I was trying to explain that to him, and I pulled up the article that Dr. Adel Abdesalam in Syria, he wrote the article about my grandfather. So I showed it to him and he was shocked, you know, that my grandfather, and then, you know, I was telling him that I was at the building of the Nufus and I almost got arrested. No, I didn't tell him that. So that they, you know, they would trace me. No, I didn't say that. But like in my mind, I'm thinking, you know, here I am, you know, revealing myself.
Right.
And I told him the story, and then I told him the story of how I took my grandfather's formula that he developed for the Ottoman army, you know, here in Adana. He was married to, you know, this woman and this and that and everything. He was mesmerized, and he said, well, we would like to showcase your grandfather and Ilaj at the Museum of History of Medicine in Adana.
Wow.
My mind was blown. Like, talk about 360 degrees 100 years later. How is this possible? And so now I'm working on creating a beautiful showcase of my grandfather's portrait, the story, the article that was written by Dr. Adel Abdeslam, and jars of Ilaj, and they want it kind of like in an antique style of look, and then the modern version. Because when I told them that in America in 10 years I was able to get this FDA OTC, over-the-counter medication, I was able to get it classified, monographed as an eczema medication, and it was originally for wound healing, and it's been, you know, marketed, you know, we went global. It was in every Walmart, every Bed Bath & Beyond store for, you know, some time. We were manufacturing 250,000 jars at a time.
Wow.
So I mean, I did it. Like, I lived the American dream, you know. I took my grandfather's Circassian formula, and I don't know if you can see this, but his picture
there he
is right there, you know, and his name. So for me, I did it. I honored the Circassian legacy. I honored my grandfather's legacy, our history together. And I took it to America, opened the market, got it global, and then randomly, Noor, I'm working on a Syrian refugee school in Adana. And I walk into the Museum of History of Medicine, and now they want to showcase my grandfather and Ilaj there.
Of course they do. Of course they do.
Tell me, is that not like one of the craziest stories you've ever heard? And I didn't get arrested.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. It's fantastic. Like, I mean, I can only speak for myself. If I could have a link that strong to my ancestors, oh my God, I would like.
No, you do. No, you do. It's there.
What is it?
You have your link. We all have our link. We all have a heritage. We all have a legacy. We all have it. You just have to do the time and do the work. Like, I've been doing the work. I've been digging this up. People are contacting me. Noor, I have invitations now, and I didn't even know this. 2 people have contacted me in Turkey and said, now in Turkey, there's a village named after my family. Shahalukwai. Yes!
That's so cool.
So just the fact that I'm being vocal about it, like, I am putting out to the universe, help me. I want to connect. I walked into a museum, I felt his spirit.
Yeah. And
then the curator of the museum is like, we will honor you.
Wow.
2 people contacted me and said, Suhein, and I don't know them, just because of like my YouTube channel and because of you know, my desire, my need, my urgency to reconnect. People are helping. The universe is great that way.
So
it cooperates.
Beautiful. That's so beautiful.
No, you have the connection, you have the legacy, and for all of you out there listening, you have a story. There's a beautiful love story somewhere tucked away. There's a beautiful military story. There's a beautiful, you know, heritage. There's a recipe. Something like, there are so many beautiful things that need to come out of the closet. We need to dig up our roots. And so enough with being invisible, enough with like that feeling of nothingness, like, you know, who am I? That identity crisis that we have lived. Enough.
Snap out of it.
Done, you know? So yeah, so it's amazing. And so like now I have, you know, writers that are contacting me, offering information. you know, because I've offered information, now they're offering information. So there's a beautiful collaboration within the diaspora now. And I've been in contact with amazing, you know, writers and you know, my own research, and like, you know, I had this TED talk that I had prepared, and I auditioned and I got a TED talk, and yet
So,
it got canceled because of COVID.
I'm gonna say this so it's on the record. Suhein sent me the TED talk. I watched it.
The audition, it wasn't the TED talk.
Yeah, it's audition. It's still good enough to share. In my opinion, I would post it on my page if you just said okay. I literally will post it on my page. Yes.
I've hidden it away because it was devastating when it got canceled. I was devastated. And it was going to be at the University of Southern Chicago or something like.
It's going to be in the University of Instagram if you just let it.
Okay, hold on. So I'm going to bring it out of the closet because I did so much research on it. I'll bring it out of the closet and I'm gifting it to you. Noor, my gift to you. I'm giving it to you before I even post it because it was, but it was an audition. Everybody, this was an audition. This was like a first. I'll put that in the
caption.
It was a first run. It was just the audition.
It's fantastic. It's fantastic. I learned things. I was engaged. I mean, as you can see, my guest is extremely charismatic speaker. It was fun to watch. There were pictures. I mean, I was just like I gobbled.
I'm such an amateur. Like you can see the way I did my PowerPoint. Like it's so. No. I'm a mom. Like I wear mom jeans. Come on.
No, it was great, and the way that it just shows you like did probably. I mean, not probably. You definitely did so much research. It was just so good. It was just good. So
thank you.
Yeah, no, it was so good. So
it's been embarrassing because like I haven't showed it to really like maybe 5 people max, like my good friends, like my, you know, the closest people to me. So honestly, I haven't showed it to anybody. So for me, it was just an audition and it got the TED Talk. But so
COVID.
Okay. Yeah.
COVID came and ruined everything. Ugh.
Yeah.
Well, moving on. They're literally my list, guys, of things I want to talk to Suhein about is so long. Recently, there's a skincare beauty trend on TikTok that went viral. It's called slugging. Like the slug, right?
Yeah.
Because you become like a slug.
It's so disgusting. Like they couldn't find a better word. Like, you know, so stupid.
That's Gen Z just keeping it real. So, this trend, I think you said your daughters showed it to you. They were like, "Hey, mom, look!" Right?
No, actually, Evian threw me in the fire.
Okay. That's what it was.
Because, you know, like Ilaj and social media, and I've been so lazy with social media with Ilaj. I'm a mom. I always say, like, my marketing is mom jeans marketing. Like, it's so amateurish. If you see my Instagram, like, you can see the things that were going to get posted 10 years ago, but because of my daughters, they wouldn't let me post them. And they're ridiculously absurd. Because, like, I have no shame. Like, Anjad, like, I have no shame. Like, I'm like, oh, I have a great idea. And my girls are like, no.
Well, TikTok is perfect for that because everyone on there is like in their robe with their hair. It's so true.
Like it liberated me. Like TikTok liberated me because I didn't have to be polished. And if you know me, like I don't like pretenses and I don't like the facade. Like I am like as real as, you know, I'm pretty obnoxious about that. So anyway, okay. So TikTok kind of liberated me. And so I was kind of out there, and then I discovered this weird thing about slugging. And I'm like, what the heck is that? It sounds awful, you know? And then it turns out that this new generation, and it actually started with Koreans that got it popular because the African-American community has always been pretty consistent by doing this particular technique of beauty regime. But the Koreans are the ones that, you know, made it popular because they're at the top of the beauty trending. And basically what it is, you clean your face at night and then you slather Vaseline onto your face and you go to sleep. You wake up and you have that glistening, you know, glow to your face, right?
Right.
I hear this And I'm like, oh no, they didn't. Because, you know, eyelash basically is comprised of, you know, the base component is Vaseline. And so what is Vaseline? It's USP, US pharmaceutical grade petrolatum. Okay. So what really irritated me about this trend is that in the last 10 years, well, actually, no, in the last 7 years, out of the blue, there were a few beauty bloggers that were like, no, petrolatum is bad because it comes from petroleum-based products. Mm-hmm. And of course, me being a manufacturer, and this is my main ingredient, I was doing all the research to verify every single ingredient. Like every single one of my ingredients, I test them. I get the best of the ingredients from Europe. I don't get my ingredients from China, like my vitamin E, my almond oil, my mastic, like all of those things. I have suppliers that I know personally, their moral, ethical compass and everything. And I know, and then I get my ingredients tested, like even my honey is tested. So anyway, so throughout all of my research, the last 10 years, and if you know me, you know I'm not materialistic, and it's never been about money. I hate business. I even hate being an entrepreneur. I'm a writer. I'm a social writer. Right. Okay? Yeah. So what's doing, like, to do the right thing and to have a moral compass is more important to me than anything. And that's the one thing that, you know, like my daughters are proud of me with, and that is that Suhein is a straight shooter, and like what it is, I will say it. Right. And in Turkish, I now have the saying, Doru, doru. Like, what is true? What is true? Beautiful. Okay? Good. So, and my Turkish is coming along.
I noticed. No, it is.
I'm going to do a video about that. I'm going to do a video about that.
Gems here and there, yeah.
So, as far as petrolatum is concerned, there is not a stone that I did not turn to verify the safety and efficacy of it. And I wanted to know why my grandfather used it to begin with and how he knew of it back then. Right. So, and the thing is that only like in 1856 was it discovered in the United States in Philadelphia by an engineer. Okay.
What was his name? Hamburger?
Yeah, it was Cheeseborough. I call it cheeseburger. Cheeseborough. So it was an engineer in the petroleum industry, and what they were finding was that the gunk that was accumulating around the pumps that were pulling the petroleum out, the accumulation of that mineral oil was Vaseline. Okay, so that was the petrolatum.
Like so raw Vaseline.
This engineer was seeing was that all of the workers, they would get burned and they would have problems with their skin because it's a very heavy duty industry. So they didn't have anything, they didn't have doctors. So they would slather that petroleum jelly onto their skin, and the engineer would notice it would heal very quickly.
Wow.
So by that, he saw that within a year, he patented it. So I've read the patent in the USPTO office. Like I have it on my documents. Okay. Right. You know, like how and what and everything. So anyway, so as you know, so these last 10 years, while all the beauty blockers were like, no, the product is not petroleum based, you know. Meanwhile, La Mer, you know, one of the most expensive cosmetic products out there has petroleum based products. But like women would walk up to me in my storefront and they would be like, ew, Ilash has petroleum? No, I use La Mer, you know. And I'm like,
what was it? Oh,
adieu, Felicia.
Right. Oh my God.
Not bad, Felicia, but I would say, you know, adieu, Felicia.
So
au revoir.
Au revoir.
Au revoir, Felicia.
So funny.
And like, what are you doing? Like, don't you know this is the one ingredient that has been used consecutively for 150 years practically.
Right.
But wait, there's more. No, stay on the line with me. Hang on. So, because my daughter unleashed me and threw me into the fire of TikTok, literally like in March, like 2 months ago, barely,
Wow.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
So, like I've been drowning in TikTok and, trying to build eyelash on TikTok. And then I discover slugging and I'm like, oh, no, you didn't. No, 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 no. Right?
Yeah.
And then I dig in deeper and I was like, no, I need to continue to defend the position that petroleum is different than petrolatum. When it is ultra filtered, it is USP grade. It is the #1 most used consecutively ingredient in the pharmaceutical industry, nonstop. Never, not one case of anything directly related to petroleum jelly has ever been directly associated. So in Europe, they say that it might cause cancer. Okay. However, there's never been any kind of a case of that. And it's not prohibited, but it's regulated so that if a cosmetic manufacturer is going to use it or pharmaceutical manufacturer is going to use it, they have to provide the documentation of where and when and how and what kind of filtration it was.
Right.
That's it. Okay. So now let's go back to the history. So as I was digging further and further, I discovered that, ladies and gentlemen, everyone listening?
Yes.
Petrolatum was discovered on the banks of the Caspian Sea.
And the crowd goes wild. What? The
Yes.
banks of the Caspian Sea.
On the Caspian Sea. So in the Caucasus, we had originally, the origin of this is documented by Marco Polo in his travels in the years 1475 to 1491 is when he was traveling, and that's when he documented. He went to jail. Actually, Marco Polo was in jail. A kindred spirit of mine. I would probably end up. He was in jail, and then there was this scribe that was taking all of his notes of all of his travels, and that's where the book was written. And so in the book, it specifically says that that in his travels on the border of the Caspian Sea and Georgia, he observed hundreds of ships that were loading up a very specific oil, of which was used on burns and irritations and bug bites for humans and camels.
Wow.
So that was the first documented case where petroleum jelly, petrolatum, was used in a medical capacity in the Caucasus.
Wow.
And that was documented officially by Marco Polo. However,
and they had it probably for eons before he came along and saw it. Yeah.
So Herodotus, the first historian of mankind, like the first historian to start writing history, was Herodotus from Greece. He documented petroleum 2500 BC. So 4,000 years ago, Herodotus confirmed petroleum in the Caucasus originally. So Marco Polo was the first to document it in 1470-ish. However, 2,500 years BC, almost 3,500, I can't do the math, 4,000 years ago, that was documented by Herodotus. So we had it first Koreans, we had it first African Americans, we had it first Gen Z, and now the whole world is slugging, and it's because of the Caucasus, it's because of that, and my grandfather knew about it back then.
Wow.
Because he didn't know about it from Philadelphia, and it was used here in the United States. It was an ingredient that had already been known to them in our heritage.
Forever.
Hello.
Amazing.
So tell me how, like, all of us, we all have work to do. We all have work to do, because, like, if this is just one verticality that is in my family, imagine every single one of your families. You have a secret recipe. You have a beautiful heritage. You have something in your family that was worth preserving.
Right.
And if anybody takes anything away from this, I want that to be it. This isn't like a pitch for me or Eilaj. It's a pitch for you.
Right. Right, right. It's beautiful. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. I mean, what an amazing, the full circle, the coming back to it.
Oh, this is layered with love stories and love stories. I've got.
I know.
Stay
I'm
tuned.
sure. We're waiting for your book. We're honestly waiting. At this point, we're waiting
Oh,
for
honey,
your book.
I've surpassed the book. Like, I'm living a Turkish drama now.
Oh,
Musensel Turkey.
I love it. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, I love it. So I have on here, we talked about your YouTube, your TikTok. Do you want to share your personal, like, just your personal journey of your life kind of leading up to adulthood, I guess? I mean, just kind of how, I'm getting this because of your amazing audition to the TED Talk. This whole concept of changing versus staying the same. I want to butter everybody up so that they watch it. It's an amazing like perspective on the whole thing, just about how you reclaimed your cultural identity. I think that a lot of people could resonate with that. A lot of young people, you know, people who are just starting families, everybody. I mean, anybody who has an immigrant story could really resonate with that, because this melting pot thing, you know, it's a double-edged sword. So
Yeah. This particular TED Talk, the theme of it was called The Power of Change. Okay. So my concept of presenting the Circassian history was to present it in the exact converse way. And like the beginning of the TED Talk, spoiler alert, like I'll say the beginning of it was that the entire American culture is based on the premise of how sexy change is.
right.
Because America is about, you know, be the change, you be you.
Yeah.
You know, that melting pot and like that constant transformation, evolution, transformative culture. Whereas we, Circassians, are all about holding on to our culture because we are so diasporatic. I just made that word up. Because we are so afraid of losing our identity and losing our culture that we will do anything and everything and hold on to it with our teeth.
Right.
So the power of not changing. So, you know, I knew that it was a risk that I was going to go into a TED Talk with 7 other speakers, and then I was going to come in and I'm going to be like, power of not changing.
Right.
And they were going to be like, who is this backward village girl? And to make a case for not changing is a very dangerous thing in the American culture. And so, because that to them represents stagnation, they equate not changing with stagnation. So I wanted to present a converse concept of, well, look, all of you are changing. You're all in the melting pot. At the end of the day, really, this fusion cuisine, how well is it going to serve you?
Right.
And in terms of like who we are as, you know, like the beauty of individuality is thereafter lost forever.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that's what's beautiful about us, is that we are so distinct. We are so individualistic in our own cultural ways. And so that was the concept of my TED Talk. Now, on a dark inner galactic side of who I am, the harsh realities of being Circassian also were not easy.
Right.
So, for example, I resent being a peace lover and always searching and yearning for peace and love in peace, which I've never had.
Right.
And maybe we as a culture, technically, generationally, traumatically, we don't normally have this, okay? Because even the way we are brought up is in such a harsh, systematic way to raise warriors, askar, you know,
Right.
our military. Like it's a phenomenon that why are so many of our men, especially the men in New Jersey, grow up and go into the police, go into the military?
Right.
Why are they not more on the level of entrepreneurs? And, you know, and it's because they were not programmed a certain way. So we actually have to reprogram. So for me, this was very difficult in the sense that, you know, why were we brought up in such a harsh disciplinary way where we had emotional neglect, why we had all of this, you know, loss of, you know, the void. And then like, I'll never forget, like riding in an airplane, like an Arab airline.
Mm.
You ride in like Antalya or Royal
Yeah.
Jordanian or any of the other ones, and you hear the Arab mothers and like, "Ya Muhammad, ta'a habibi, ta'a kul al-khubz b'labani."
It's like honey. Their words are honey.
You know, "Ya
It's
habibi,
so-
ya ruhi, ya aini, ya qalbi," and then
Yeah.
like in Turkish it's "jinam benim" and all of this, and we're like, "What the hell are you doing?" You know, like today somebody called me out and they're like, "You never say good morning," and I'm like, "What?"
Is that a thing?
Get to work, you know,
Yeah.
like get to work, you know,
Yeah.
life is about work.
Yeah.
And it's not, you know, it's so much more. And so like disassociating the old ways and realizing, no, we're not perfect, but we were perfect for maintaining survivalistic instincts. We were created that way because we were known as the #1 warriors in all of Eurasia. Genghis Khan could not penetrate us. We were the border to Europe.
Right.
The Europeans could not penetrate Asia because we were the border. The Turks could not go north because of us. The Russians could not come south because of us. We held our ground. We held our mountains. The mountains held us.
Right.
And it was because of the Amazons, the women, the men. I just spoiled my TED Talk.
No, your TED Talk is so loaded, mashallah. Like, guys, this is like a drop of her TED Talk. It really is so.
Thank you.
There's such a depth to it.
Yeah, so for me, it was hard because, you know, you have to filter. But what I learned upon being mature, you know, now that I've reached my old age, my 50s,
Come on.
I've put into context. We put our parents into context. We put our ancestors into context. Then we can appreciate them more.
Right.
We cannot judge anything of the past based on today's standards of comfort and the entitlement that we have, you know, only through their eyes of survivalistic, you know, the NARTs, the code of honors, you know, the military, you know, code of honor. And, you know, they're beautiful, beautiful concepts, but not when they're compared to today's standards of affection and love and, you know, that soft part of humanity.
Right.
We did not have that.
Yeah. Yep.
You know,
so rare thing if anybody did.
Yeah.
Consider yourself one of the rare birds.
Yeah. So it's weird because my generation, like, I was brought up in that very old-fashioned way. Like, I mean, I live with my mother and she is full-on hardcore old-fashioned. Like, she still thinks that we're living in the Golan Heights in 1957, like 1960.
Wow.
So anything less than that protocol is a violation.
It's scary. Not only that, it's like, what? It's like it shakes the ground under your feet. It's not.
Yes. And so I was of the generation of being brought up in that, but yet my daughters hold me accountable to being, you know, like the new generation of Instagram psychology and memes and, you know, all this, you know, new age psychology and emotional support systems. And I have boundaries. Like, what? What are you talking about? You have boundaries.
Oh my God, boundaries.
Yeah, so it's a completely different world. So it's just like, you know, this is not fair. This is not fair because I didn't get all that good stuff. I didn't get that good stuff on the back end, but now
Right.
I have to provide it on the front end.
Right.
So I am that pivotal generation between the two, culturally, you know, and emotionally and education wise and psychology wise and all of that. And so this has been fascinating. And all of this came to be for me in this last year.
Wow.
Because prior to that, I have been a workaholic. You know, launching a product, being an entrepreneur, I have been nonstop working like no other. So the fact that I decided to move to Turkey and like have less stress and financial pressure of the, you know, especially California, you know, like that's insane on another level. And you know that, you know, like we all are going through that. There's no one not going through it. We are all, you know, struggling through that, and it's going to get worse, you know. So me making the decision to come to Turkey was a decision of liberation and, you know, like I have to do this. I need to go write. And like when people start hearing my stories, they're like, go, go, go. You need to write. And that process, now that I have time, now that I've started to have breakfast on the Mediterranean Sea in the morning and, you know, chai, and I have time to look at the mountains and the sunrise, and I'm like, wow, this is life.
I was going to say you're reconnecting with your humanity. You're consciously exiting survival mode, which
survival
was good on
mode.
You.
Yeah, exactly. So this love is a battlefield concept, you know, this history that we have of everything is a battlefield. Now I have to let go of that. And so like I'm experiencing PTSD after the fact of an entire life of being in survival mode. And like, again, I refer everybody back to the interview with my mother on my YouTube channel is very, very, very indicative. Like it's a 1 hour long episode, but man, it's jam packed like no other, because we were dealing with gangs and mafia in the 70s in Clifton, New Jersey, 117 Valley Road, Clifton, New Jersey, 07013. We owned Village Fountain, the restaurant there, and we experienced terrorism like no other, like American terrorism, on that level. And like, you know, the joke in the family was my father, you know, said, oh, we're living West Side Story, you know, which is about gangs and racism and immigrants, but without the music and the dancing and the love story.
Without all the stuff that you, oh man,
all the cute, you know, the cute stuff. But we had like, we were the first ones to ever have bulletproof windows, because they were trying to kill us. You know, my brother's car, he bought it, a brand new Toyota Celica, and it exploded right in front of our house. And they tried to burn us down, arson attempts. They killed our dogs. They poisoned our dogs. Like I'm telling you, this interview with my mother was revealing. And it was the first time that we've ever spoken about this publicly. Even within our own family, we never spoke of the traumas. So for me, the last 2 years, I've barely been able to bubble up the surface and start talking about things that have never, even within my family, we were silenced. And like a fish doesn't know it's in water. We were in water. So yeah, that survivalism, you know. Oh, and that interview that I did with my mom, Dr. Adel Abdesalam, like from Syria, he called me and he said, Suhein, you proved your DNA. The courage that you have, your family has proven how Circassian you are. And I was like, that was the ultimate DNA test. Yeah, thank you.
Goosebumps.
Yeah. So what an honor that was. And then he cross-referenced the information, and I did not know this, but my father had secretly told Dr. Adil those stories.
Wow.
So he verified that my father had secretly confided in him, which I know my father never confided into anyone really, but he confided in him.
Quite an honor.
Yeah. So he confirmed everything that I had said in the interview with my mother, which that was the first time even she and I really had started to talk about, and she was so resistant. She was like, La, hinapa, aib. no, we cannot talk about these things. I'm sure everybody went through them. And I'm like, no, Mom, not everybody went through what we went through.
No.
So yeah, so this year in Turkey has been so transformative for me because it's the first time I slowed down. It's the first time I sit at the beach and I have a cup of tea and I'm like, whoa, what is this? And it's hard. It's like, I've been very lucky that I've met, very special people that have helped me learn this. And I still struggle with it. Like, I'll be relaxing and I'll be like, no, I gotta go work. I have to go work. I have to go work.
Right.
Not easy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna just speak on, so if anyone didn't catch it yet, Suhein is my husband's paternal aunt. So this is my children's, direct relative, and I can definitely see that. I mean, that survival mode has, let's just say, permeated through the generation. And I mean, I'm working with my children to make sure that they don't feel like they're in survival mode. I want them to feel like they've rested.
You are very loving as a mother. I've seen you in action, and the whole family recognizes you as being a great mom. So you emotionally and intellectually are very there, and you're educating your children. So
I just feel like as long as, thank you so much. As long as they can rest in their childhood, they can have whatever they're gonna do as adults, and then they can just remember their childhood as a restful time. I'm just trying to do that for them.
I want your boys to go to the museum in Adana and see their great grandfather and see that showcase. And I want all the Circassians to go there because I am going to showcase that as the Circassian doctor. That was one of the top doctors in Turkey that created a brand. Well, he didn't create the brand. I created the brand globally and brought it back.
Right.
And that's my legacy.
I mean, yeah. That's like on our top list of things to do in Turkey at this point. Pamukkale, whatever. Now we're gonna go to Adana. We're gonna hit this museum up. Just need to hear that it's done.
And I want to videotape that because, like, imagine the great grandchildren, to go. Wait, no. This is grandchild, great grandchild.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
that's
beautiful.
5 generations.
That's so beautiful.
Imagine the 5th generation later, and we've held on to our legacy. People, come on, wake up, find your legacy. It's there.
I know. And on my page, I try to encourage people to look within themselves. Like, you have a natural, your
Beauty.
life went in that direction. For me, it's I look within myself and I say, okay, so what about me? Do I feel like it's an instinctual pull, it's like in me and I need to do it? And I connect that to my ancestors, so when I'm in an activity or in a thing, I'm just totally in like a peaceful meditative state. I always try to remember them, because it could have easily been a great grandmother, a great grandfather that I get that exact feeling from, somewhere down the line that comes from someone. So that's kind of how I'm doing it. I mean, I wish I had something more direct. Maybe
you do. Well,
I
know you do. You do. Trust me, you do. Every one of you have that. A couple of years ago, I wrote a book. Like I had decided that I was going to shift out of the entrepreneur world. Now that I've launched Ilaj and all, I mean, I still have work to do with Ilaj, but like I'm shifting out into more of my creative side because I've been wanting to bring this out for so long. So I focus more on media. But I did an underwater photo shoot 2 years ago.
Okay.
And, like, what the heck is an underwater photo shoot?
Right.
But I wanted to debut my whole new identity as a writer.
Right.
And I wanted, like, I love symbolism. So what I wanted to present is myself underwater. And I took a laptop underwater as if I was typing underwater. And then I had this other like video segment, and that is with pages of a book floating and the words floating.
Right.
What that represents, I get emotional.
Good. That's good.
Is all those that died in the Black Sea,
Right.
that I will write their stories.
Oh. Yeah.
And that the ink is from that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it will not be lost.
That's how you do it.
Can we end now? Can we end this now?
I know. When I think about the Black Sea, I'm like, that's it's such a hard
so
fact just to swallow.
So for me, and like if you see my YouTube channel, the teaser, the intro is with me swimming underwater,
right,
with the words floating and like the pages floating. And it was that I learned how to breathe underwater. Because in the back of my mind, I was always thinking of them and our ancestors that drowned in the Black Sea.
Right. And
that their stories need to be told. And I found my inspiration underwater. Like, you know, I love swimming in the Mediterranean every day. Like, that's my thing, you know, like, right. You know, a crazy story. I actually, like within a month or a half of being in Turkey, it was the craziest thing. I literally met someone where I was swimming in January. Like it was January. It was freezing cold.
Yeah.
I'm swimming. There's no one else swimming. And I meet someone who's Circassian swimming.
Yeah.
and they're like, where are you from? And I'm like, no Turkiye, no Turkiye, because I don't want to talk. Like, I'm not, like, I'm there to swim. Get out of my way.
Yeah.
And I'm swimming. And they're like, where are you from? And I'm like, no Turkiye, no Turkiye. You know, English is like, you know, American. And I'm like, no. So then, like, I had to swim back. And I couldn't swim deeper in the water. And I couldn't go offshore. So I had to swim back. And he's like, you know, and I'm like, I wanted to throw something at him. Like there was no way that he would ever know, no response, whatever. And I'm like, Cherkas. And then he's like,
that's
what?
it.
And he starts talking in Circassian and I'm like, no.
Stop, no.
Because I'm so programmed to thinking no one knows who we are.
Right.
So if I throw a red herring at him, like he's not going to know, and I'll just be able to pass and go back to my life, be happily ever after, alone. You know, I don't want anything. And then he's like, and then it was so funny. So yeah, so like when you're in Turkey, you know, you can't throw that out there without expecting they're going to know who you are. And like, alhamdulillah, like in Turkey, they all respect us, you know, like they do love Sharkas.
Yes.
So it's just so funny. But that story is just so ridiculously funny that like out of the entire Mediterranean Sea, no one is swimming except two Circassians.
I had a funny story. We went to the Eid festival held here at one of the biggest masjids I've ever been heard of. And imagine it's the whole, like it's on the fairgrounds at a huge ranch. And I go to a booth to get some water and it's obvious that the woman is Turkish. Okay, so I'm talking to her and then she hits me with the Turkish question, sister, where are you from? This question, I think in Turkey, I got asked over like 800 times. Where are you from? So I looked at her, I'm like, Cherkez. She was like, Cherkez! I'm like, yeah. Even here, I love it. It's such a, it's so nice. Like, it's so nice.
You're not invisible anymore.
It's so nice. And it's like a huge reason why I even got back, you know, this interest, this connection with my heritage. And I'm telling you, just being back on American soil, I'm like, I'm so far away from it. It's like you can feel it.
Yes.
You know, you just feel like you know, mama, like who knows what we are, you know?
Right.
So
Yeah, you're lost. Like
yeah,
it is a very hard feeling to be lost. And yeah, again, like that TED Talk meant a lot to me, that like I was tired of being invisible. And like I begin the TED Talk talking as if I was invisible,
right.
you know? So yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. And I can't wait to share her TED Talk audition on my page. Mwah, chef's kiss. Um, I wanted to ask you, because now we've shared so many amazing facts and tidbits about your life. I highly encourage everybody to go on her YouTube page, to go on her TikTok, where you can get like full the full range of all of these topics. You can just get like the full story basically of all of
Yeah,
it.
I've got my business stuff on there. I've got the cultural. I have interviews
Right.
with the podcasts. I have Yusuf and Mazem and Bush. You know, like I've got Circassian stuff. I've got the Syrian immigrant refugee stories. I've got, you know, kind of the
work. So much hard work has been put out by you.
Yeah.
And, you know, even with Adam, my husband, who's your nephew, you know, he's proud. We're proud of you, you know, because it takes a lot to put yourself out there. And I follow this amazing woman. She's Balkan. She's a psychotherapist. I found her on social media and we just clicked, we hit it off. And she says that part of generational trauma is hiding. It's that fear of judgment. It's that fear of being vulnerable. And when you put yourself out there, you are directly working against that generational trauma. So, you know, people who are sharing bits of their life, people who are showing themselves happy, showing their humanity, talking about things. This is a beautiful practice. And even though you may be nervous to do it on the internet, which of course is not for everybody, I just encourage everybody to find a place where they can just be happy, like openly, you know, work on just showing yourself joyful openly, because we want to see your smile. Everybody wants to see you living your life in the best possible way.
Yani the smile is sadaqa. It's
right.
You know, it's a charity. Like when you give a smile, and so even when you're in pain, giving that smile, it's a duality where you reciprocate. So
beautiful. I'm gonna go ahead and ask you a couple questions that I offer to all of my guests. Since we had so much to talk about otherwise, I just wanted to get your take, your spin on a few of these topics. Let's see. Do you have a memory of being engaged in a cultural setting, of course, Circassian, that you remember feeling so deeply happy in that moment? I think I know the answer to this one, though.
Ooh, tell me, which one?
Is it when you were at the medicine museum? By far.
I was overwhelmed with connectivity. And I felt the sense of responsibility that I have to do this. I have to get this in the museum, and to have the Circassian doctor showcased in the Museum of Medicine.
Right. Beautiful.
Yeah, for me, that was the ultimate cultural renaissance, existence, redemption. That's the word. It was redemption. Damn it.
Yeah. Found it.
In their face. Alehom.
So funny. And then this is probably one of my favorite things to discuss with my guests. The quote, you know, we are our ancestors' wildest dreams come true. You know, what does that phrase mean to you? What do you think you're doing, and I think it's kind of obvious, would make your ancestors so incredibly proud as far as like an innate personality trait? And then what part of your life do you think their prayers for the future were answered in you? Any of that.
It's weird. The first word that came to my mind is sacrifice.
Oh.
Their sacrifice for us. Don't get me emotional.
I can't. This one gets. Yeah, it can
Their
be.
their sacrifices have not gone in vain. And you know, okay. Here, wait. Come on. Yes.
Ah, yes, you mentioned that in your TED Talk. I have to read this book this year.
Oh,
Like, I have to read it.
guys, this is it right here. This book, I don't know if I went crazy. Oh yeah. Okay, so this is like me.
Oh,
You see?
beautiful. Yeah.
Like,
A
I am
true
obsessive.
student.
Though, like,
Yeah.
I am obsessive. You guys, Oliver Bullough is an investigative journalist.
Right.
And what's shocking about this is that when he wrote it, as an investigative journalist, you expect it to be so factual. You expect it to be so, but it was beyond the factual. Yes, it was investigative. And yes, he was tracing back, I mean, the Stalinistic genocide, you know, like, you know, the last push
Right.
to get the Kabardinians out of, you know, the you know, Balkaria. And oh my god, this book, I was bawling, crying, like I needed therapy in writing, like reading this. And then it got to the point where I was begging Maza Melgosh, and I'm like, please read this with me because I can't read this alone.
Right. Wow.
I need someone to be able to read it with me, in order to bounce the ideas and the emotions and to process it with. So I don't know if anybody wants to read this and like create a book club, I'm in. You know, like
there's an account, Circassian Book Club. Maybe they'll do it.
Okay, this is the book, you know, and like it's haunting, and I haven't finished it. I haven't been able to because I moved to Turkey, but it's so emotional that like, oh my gosh. So what's fascinating about it is that like an investigative journalist, and this guy is brilliant. Like he's written other books about the International Money Fund and the IMF and exposing the conspiracies and the corruption of money globally. Wow. So he is definitely intellectual, but the emotional dimension of this is as if he was Circassian. Wow. And I know the CBA of New Jersey has invited him and he spoke, but you know, you guys, if you want to like trace back in a emotional, balanced, rationale, investigative journalist level, that's the book.
Wow.
And it'll put other things into perspective for you, because like I didn't really think that much about the Stalin era and what it did to us, and how like that whole, you know, let's finish him off.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I only got glimpses of that online, but you can't beat literally just reading the book. I have to read that book this year. The little bit that I know and I've read, I mean, it's so haunting. It's so disturbing. I've read that, you know, basically what happened to our people laid the ground for the Holocaust, laid the ground for the extermination and trail of tears for the indigenous people of this continent. I mean, it was like testing, basically. They tested everything ugly and horrific out on Caucasians and Circassians, and like we really ate it. And it's just to go back and just to know what happened to our people is I think our first duty,
right,
as members of our community.
Yeah, and going back to like, when you want to connect, the universe will respond. SubhanAllah, like somebody from Jordan has contacted me. He's actually coming in May to Antalya to talk about some other media projects we can collaborate on. Like out of the blue.
cool.
You know,
That's,
so,
yeah.
you know, like, in, I was invited to Kayseri, where a lot of Circassians are in central Turkey, to also meet up with some other Circassian media documentary people as well. And like I said, like once you put yourself out there that you
Right.
are, you know, needing, wanting, desiring, the universe responds. Like again, I say you all have a legacy, and don't be surprised that it gurgles up out of the ground and like somebody's going to reach out to you and be like, oh, you're Shahalak. There's two villages. There's one in Caucasian
Wow.
and then there's one in Turkey.
I can't
like,
get over that. You have to send me where. I want to know where.
I'm gonna document it. I'm gonna put it on the YouTube channel. Like I just have to, like, you know, the process of going back there and discovering who, what, when, and where. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it is
Necessary.
Yeah.
It's necessary. Just no other way to put it. Got to do it.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, I appreciate you doing so much for your family, my family, just as the mother of, you know, the upcoming generation. It's priceless, absolutely priceless, the work that you're doing. And, you know, that type of focus. And I wanted to say this when you were talking about your product. Just listen and look at the excellence, this quest for excellence. It's so potent and it's so beautiful. This just drive to make sure that everything is exactly as it should be. The way you spoke about your product, the way that you talk about anything that interests you, the way you read, look at your book, like you're trying to absorb as much of it as possible. I mean, it's just a beautiful thing. And I see it so, it's in so many of our people, you know, because maybe my own hypothesis, you had to be excellent, because if you were not excellent, you were gonna die. You know, like you had to know how to build your house, you had to know how to make your clothes, make your food out of like pretty much nothing. And
we have to channel that strength. Like
yes,
that's the
so
thing is we
beautiful.
have to channel that strength. Instead of that energy going into something negative, we have to just focus and channel it. Right. Especially the men in our community.
Right. I have such I was of the no, you said the word men, so now I gotta just make a statement. I have such a place, my heart is in such a place of compassion toward the male members of our community, the entire Caucasus, and pretty much all over the world, because culturally they really do have so much that they need to kind of wade through. And they can't do it alone. And part of my page, I hope people have gotten by now, is I like to advocate for healthy male existence. I really do. I have 2 little boys, and I am trying my best to show them the path that they're allowed to be human beings. You're allowed to cry. You're allowed to have your feelings. You're allowed to love art. All of that. All of it. And my heart sincerely goes out to every male that, you know, had part of their personality, their humanity stifled. And I can't even imagine. So
yeah, it's so hard because they went from such a masculine,
right,
you know, level of like, you know, strength, and then they had to be emasculated in a culture that did not appreciate that. You know, and so like, where do they channel all that masculine energy? So it's beautiful that you have that empathy and compassion towards them, because it's easy to, you know, reject them and displace them and be like, you know, you can't be macho, but you need to be masculine. Well, how can they differentiate between the two?
Yeah. I mean, I had a lot of resentment for a long time. Just being honest. And I know a lot of women that spoke the way I used to speak about our men, and I'm 100% over it. I just try to be supportive. I just try to be like, if nobody told you, you're
is it because you married my nephew, who is such a beautiful, gentle soul?
So amazing. Yeah. I mean, that
Yeah.
honestly, that's a whole story where like he was literally like my prayers were answered.
Yeah, because he's such a gentle soul. So he has the masculine, but he's a gentle soul.
Yeah, I mean, he was literally my prayers, my dua was answered in him, and I was
Allah
like,
yahmikum. Allah yahmikum.
thank you so much. He's just, yeah, one of the best people I've ever known and will ever know. I mean, I'm lucky to say he's my husband, so that's how I feel about that.
Oh,
and yeah, and you know, we have now 2 little boys, and you know, I'm happy for them. I'm like, that gets to be your dad. That's so awesome. You know, so hugging, we're very like, we try to be very affectionate. We try to show them, you know, just all the things that they're allowed to do. So we're just like, they're not even going to know that that's a thing, you know, where
right.
They just have to stuff everything down, and you're like, either you're happy or you're angry. There's like no in between. No, honey.
So I have a question for you. question for you. So I get to ask Noor the question, can I?
Sure.
When are you going to visit Caucasia?
I honestly want to go so badly. I want to go.
I want to organize a trip. I want to organize a trip and document it and do a documentary about it. Okay, I'm putting this out there in the universe. How's that?
Okay.
I want to organize a trip, and I want to organize like really special people that want to go to Caucasia and really kind of do like a documentary of our emotional reconnection back. So yeah, anybody interested,
I'm for it.
Put your comments in there and like, let's put something together. Like either let's do a book club of this book, and then we'll do something about that trip. Inshallah, you never know.
Yeah. No, I'm all for it. If
I believe in the power of the universe.
Yeah. We land back in Turkey, we're gonna try to go there. I have to go. I have to. Like in my lifetime, I have to go. I have to see it.
Oh, and I got an invitation to go to Israel, to Kafar Kama and Rihaniya, to document that as well.
See, that's the thing. That's the thing. Amazing.
Yeah. So like people are reaching out to me and connecting and saying, you know, hey, come here and do an interview. Come here and do an interview. And now I feel like I want to do that because like I want to hear the voices of other people. And there's so many things about the Circassians in Turkey that I don't understand.
Right.
You know, so I don't know. I think your work is amazing, but we definitely need to find a way to connect the dots.
Yeah. Hopefully, yeah. I mean, as the generations kind of progress, as these projects mature, I mean, you've been online now for a nice chunk of time. Like, when did you launch your YouTube page? 4 or 5 years ago?
It was actually on my birthday 3 years ago.
3.
So
okay,
April 14th. Yeah. So the first interview I did was with my mother on my birthday. That was when I launched it. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah.
So I felt like that was my rebirth, you know, as a writer, as, you know, someone in media, because like, you know, business was not my first choice, but I had to. I was, you know, survivor. I was, you know, a single mom for a long time, and, you know,
Yeah. Amazing. Okay, Suhein, well, thank you so much for your time. I had the exact level of just fun that I knew I was going to have talking with you. I appreciate you staying up. It's probably dawn in Istanbul at this, in Antalya at this point. So thank you so much. And
you're very welcome. Thank you for all your work.
Thank you so much. Thank you for yours. Thank you for inspiring and just being open and sharing all of these amazing stories. And like I said, we're waiting for your book, your biography, your memoir. Let's call it a memoir. That's even better. On all of these things, I want a signed copy.
You got it.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your night.
Bye, everybody. Love you.
Please say hi to your mom.
I will. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.
Bye.